to this platform Barry Griffin as he speaks on Change Must Come.
Thank you. Thank you. PLP? 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 Thank you to Mr. Wade Delancey, Chairman of the KIllarney Branch, for the invitation to speak tonight. And thank you to Mr. Walter Ferguson, Party Vice Chair, for arranging the connection between the Progressive Young Liberals and the KIllarney Branch. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the officers and members of the KIllarney Branch, stalwart councillors who are present, party supporters, and members of the general public at large. A pleasant good evening. I'm excited to be here this evening. On the heels of our very successful convention, your presence here tonight shows that our party has already begun the hard work necessary to transform this party once again into the party of choice of the Bahamian people. As a young person, I'm incredibly inspired to begin taking our message to young people across the nation. So thank you, Killarney, for inviting me to speak to your branch meeting this evening. Young Bahamians today are growing up in a time of awe-inspiring change. Here in this country alone, we've seen our country blacklisted and downgraded. We've lived through a recession that has crippled our economy. We are seeing growing economic inequality, higher bank fees, higher tuition costs, higher thresholds to get loans and mortgages, a murder rate that's escalating, increased immigration, and the list goes on and on. Young Bahamians are living firsthand the challenges of our time. And in the age of instant information, where Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp are constantly feeding us a steady stream of bad news, I know many young people feel like the system is crumbling at a time when we need it to work most. So now we see young people shrinking and going off into their own corners, distancing themselves from politics and government. So as I've been meeting more and more young people, as a young person, I try to encourage them to reject this impulse to shrink and to reject the thought that our destiny is determined by forces out of our control. I try to make the argument to young people that we should be more optimistic about our country and the part we can play in its development. I encourage young people to have the mindset of author Alex Steffen, who says, "Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy for us to think that nothing is going to get any better." He goes on to say, in fact, cynicism is obedience. And right now in our country, many things are happening where the powers that be are betting that we as young people remain discouraged and apathetic. They are betting on us not to question things and to just go with the flow. So I say now is the time to question. Now is the time to demand answers. Decisions that are made today will affect us for the rest of our lives. Young people cannot be silent now. As the opposition, and as young people in general, we should be paying particular attention to what is happening right now with this so-called Commercial Enterprises Bill. Young people across this country should have major concerns with this bill as it is currently drafted. In the Reasons and Objects clause of the bill, it states that the purpose of the bill is to liberalize the work permit regime in the Bahamas. I will speak a little bit about this tonight from a young person's perspective. In 1967, the PLP passed the Immigration Act. Since that time, it has been part of the philosophy of the PLP and the policy of successive Bahamian governments, PLP and FNM, that a work permit would not be issued to a foreigner unless a Bahamian was not available or qualified for the job. And there's a statutory regime that must be followed in order for a foreigner to get a work permit. The Labor Board must certify that a Bahamian isn't available for the job, and then the Department of Immigration would issue the work permit. So here now, we have a bill that seeks to completely scrap this regime that is meant to ensure that here in the Bahamas, jobs are first and foremost for Bahamians. Young Bahamians should be very wary of this. In particular, because some of the areas of the economy that the bill is focused on are areas in which young people are primarily engaged, and also areas of the future that young Bahamians should be encouraged to engage in, such as software design and computer programming and data storage. So here you have this bill that states that a foreign person or a foreign company can say to the investment board that they will invest $250,000 in a company in one of the prescribed areas. And once the investment board approves, the foreign investor can come here to the Bahamas and show that approval, and they'll be allowed to enter the country. Once here, they'll have 30 days to apply for work permits for their workers. And if the government doesn't answer the application within 14 days, then these work permits will be automatically granted. And so the entire regime of vetting persons you give a work permit to or ensuring that qualified Bahamians get jobs is completely gone. Young Bahamians should be wary of this bill. And you know, the issue goes a lot deeper for persons who support the Progressive Liberal Party. Many would joke casually that the FNM and the PLP are two sides to the same coin, that essentially not much separates the parties. But here we have, in the clearest terms, an issue that is a defining distinction between the PLP and the FNM. Since 1967, Bahamianization has been a part of the core of the PLP's philosophy. It has been the goal of successive PLP governments to ensure that Bahamians are the ones who primarily own the drivers of this economy, that Bahamians are the ones who are employed in this country, and that Bahamians are the primary beneficiaries of our economic output. This one bill threatens the work of our policy of Bahamianization that successive governments have fought tooth and nail for. As young Bahamians, we should be watching this and using technology to take the debate to the people. We cannot sit on the sidelines as our patrimony is being divvied up to anyone who comes here with $250,000. So my primary objective by this speech tonight is to get young people to seriously think about what is being proposed here, and to make clear that whether you are FNM, PLP, DNA, unaffiliated, or couldn't care less about political parties, that we are Bahamians first, and that what we must all do, all in our power, to ensure that any government advances is for the benefit of Bahamians. So this is my charge to everyone in this room tonight, and to all young Bahamians, to stand up and question our public officials. We need answers, because from where we are sitting right now, we don't see how this bill helps young Bahamians. And so with that, as PYL chair, our party's youth leader, my larger message for young PLPs and for young Bahamians at large is for us to reject that feeling that we can't do anything, to reject that urge to be apathetic, because we are facing real issues now that require us to be vigilant and that require us to stand up and be counted. My message is also to all members of our party and members of the public, because we as young people need your help. Young people's first encounter with politics is in the home. When we fail to talk about politics and the PLP with young people in our lives, we fail our party and we fail our country. If your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews do not know what your values are and do not know why you support Bahamianization or why you support the PLP, how can you expect them to believe in our philosophy and in our core values? So now is the time to talk to young people about what is going on in this country. As PYL chair, I intend for the Progressive Young Liberals to go around this nation speaking with young people and establishing branches on every island and every constituency. We are going to do our part to reach as many young people as we can. And so we need you to do your part. We often speak about the lack of youth involvement in our politics, but the buck stops with us. We must help to foster that spirit in them. So I ask you, the members of this Killarney branch and PLPs everywhere, to bring young people into the fold. Let them know about the PLP and why you support the PLP. Tell them about the Young Liberals and encourage them to get involved. Now, we have a sign-up sheet that's going around the room today, and I would like everyone in here to sign up on that sign-up sheet and to give us your contact information so that we can keep you in the know about what the Young Liberals are doing. Young people can be a creative force of a dynamic source of innovations, and they have undoubtedly throughout history participated, contributed, and even catalyzed important changes in political systems. It is our time here in the Bahamas and our time here in the PLP to use young people to bring about great change in this party and in our country. Think about all the progress that can be made when we join forces with our young people. Think about all that can be accomplished. There wouldn't be a challenge in this country that we couldn't tackle. I personally believe that our future is brighter than our past. And I believe that our party's best days are still ahead of us. And I believe that because I believe young people will lead our party and our country to greater days. And if you share that belief, I need you to say that you are with the PLP all the way. So PLP, PLP, PLP. Thank you. Thank you.